Welcome to the Business Bites Podcast, the podcast for busy entrepreneurs. Whether you're an online entrepreneur or seeking after brick and mortar success, this podcast brings you quick bites of content so you can learn and grow anywhere you are. Now here's your host, Rachel Brainke.
Hello and welcome to today's podcast. I am your host, Rachel Brainke, and this is the Business Bites Podcast where you can get really good information in a really short amount of time so you can get back to running your business and being with your family. I wanted to talk to you guys about filling the rocks first. What do I mean by this? Well, my entire goal is to give you some quick tips to calendar management that actually puts family in yourself first ahead of your business. It's really easy when we're running our businesses to get caught up in the different things that we need to do. We've got marketing over here, we've got social media over there, not to even mention the legalities and all the other back room stuff that needs to be done in order to even keep the entire business afloat. Notice I didn't even talk about creating of the content or service or whatever it is that you provide your customers or clients or how you make your money. So you see, we have so much going on. I don't need to tell you guys about that. You totally know because that's why you're here today. So what do I mean by filling the rocks first? Well, before I even go into telling you what the rocks are, let me tell you a little bit about who I am and why that I found that this method works so well in business. As I said, my name is Rachel Brainke. I am a mother of 5 wonderful, almost all the time, wonderful children. And I have a husband who has a full-time, very successful career himself. And I have multiple brands that I work with. And so with a whole bunch of things going on, I don't really actually have a large team behind the scenes. I'm very hands-on with all areas of my business, which could be a downfall sometimes, a little bit more control-oriented than I probably need to be. But it's worked very well for me in the last few years. I have grown multiple brands of these to very successful levels, and they've maintained and continued to grow. Now, along this process, I've learned a lot about myself, I've learned a lot about managing, and also the relationships in my life. I know that anytime I'm growing a brand or a business, it is very, very easy, especially with the type A personality that I am, to fall into this trap of must work all the time, get it done. I get this fiery passion in my stomach, so excited to do it all. I must touch everything. I must do everything. I must get it done as quick as I can so that I can get it out there so I can help other people. Because that's my mission. That's why I'm here talking to you guys today. And when that pit in my stomach is just burning hard, it makes me want to work all the time. And admittedly, one of the issues that I found and my weaknesses when I first started out in business on my own was that it was easy for me to succumb to this fire. This fiery feeling in my stomach would consume me, and the businesses were on a good fire at that point. Things were starting to grow, but it became a negative fire because it started to burn out my personal relationships within my family, in my marriage, and just with my friends and who I was as a person. I became very overwhelmed and tired, and it's not necessarily a persona that I always showed online, but if you guys, any of you have followed me for a while, I like to share vulnerabilities. I think it's a key way for y'all to learn through my success and my growth that it's not always been peachy keen. My husband and I have had our issues in the past. I've not been the best parent, and I sat down and gave myself a hard look when we had a really hard year one year, and I was like, what is the common denominator here? What is it that I need to do? And everyone's hurtling these ideas at me of you need to outsource, you need to get more team members, but with that comes a host of managing people plus having the money to do it, and being able to release control and all this sort of things. And I went back to the very basics. I sat down at my desk one evening, and I was like, how do I do all of this? How do I fit it all in? I only have 24 hours in the day. And I seriously laid my head down on my desk one evening after I had spent trying to get the kids to bed. My husband was deployed at the time, and there was a long list of things I still needed to do. And I just was crying, and I'm like, what is it? I only have 24 hours. And then I went, yeah, I only have 24 hours. What am I filling my days with? what is it that I can do that doesn't require extra money or extra taking on of obligations at this point? I was bootstrapping. I bootstrapped all my businesses. I've never had investors, and was reinvesting as much as possible from what I was making. And I'm like, what is it that I do have? I had time and I had a calendar. And the analogy, which is the title of this episode, is called Filling the Rocks First. And something that hit me really hard when all of this felt like it was crumbling was, what is the one thing that has been sitting here? What has been my rock through this entire process? Even if they haven't always been so happy, it's been my family and myself. And so those are the rocks. And I want you guys to visualize, and this is exactly what I do with my calendar anytime I take on a new project, anytime I decide whether or not I'm going to take on a new big client or grow, make another action in one of my brands. I always take and identify what are the rocks in my life at that time. And it's really super easy if you have a family, whether you have kids or not, married or not, significant other, you can identify right off the bat. Family is a rock. Hopefully you have a really good relationship with your family. If you don't, then maybe perhaps you have people in your life that you have really good relationships with, and those become the rocks that you're going to put into this vase, which is the confined amount of time that you guys have is the 24 hours on the day. So, and that's your calendar, hint, hint, if you haven't picked up on this. And so we're going to pick those rocks and put those into the vase first. And then we want to think about, okay, what's next? What is really important? Another thing I learned was I needed to do something for me. And at the time, as I was growing all the businesses and everything's going on, we were also growing our family. And with that came, and unfortunately, this is really weird to share with you guys, but it also came with a weight gain of having the children and then trying to get back to, pre-pregnancy weight or to a fitness level that I wanted to be at. But on top of that also, it was what can I do that is mentally for me? So I share that with you guys for you to identify a rock that maybe one rock could be for your personal well-being, whether that includes having a hobby or physical fitness, or there's a personal goal, so just lose weight, get fit, or learn a new craft. This can be a variety of rocks. It doesn't have to be one. But I sit and my rocks change out. That's the really awesome thing about it, is that at the time of this recording, I am training for a half Ironman triathlon. A year ago, that rock wasn't even anywhere near my face. I wasn't even thinking about it, and here I am. So I've taken some things out, one rock out, I've put another rock in, and all of these go in the bottom of my vase, bucket, whatever it is that you want to identify your calendar and life and time to be. But the items in your life, your family, your friends, yourself, your mental health, all of that needs to go in first into your calendar, first into your vase, and then you fill it with sand. Then you fill it with all the business stuff and all the other things you need to do. Now, that sounds really fine and dandy. Well, how do we actually apply that? I sit down with myself. I come up with my goals and my plans for the year, and this is an ever-changing process. I sit down with my husband and we talk about what kind of family vacations or home improvements or different things that we want to do for the next year. And all that goes on the calendar. We have a joint calendar, so we always know what one another is doing at the time. Again, that was one of our rocks. It was really important that we have the communication, that we are going to know what each other's doing. Because in the beginning, it was so busy, we were scheduling over one another. Then all of a sudden, it'd be like, oh no, we don't have someone to watch the kids. Or, oh wait, you're going to be in California, I'm going to be in Florida. How are we going to do this? And so that was one of the ways that we were able to coordinate and communicate to know where our rocks were going to be. We're going to put each other first. We're going to make sure our kids were taken care of, the house was taken care of, even our puppy dog, and we utilize that with a calendar. So everything goes on the calendar, and it says a fluid process. It's not like we only meet January 1 and then this is it for the year. We talk about it throughout the year. Things change. I may get new speaking jobs. He may have to travel for work. I may have to reschedule a few things. That's okay, because my rocks are going to come first. So all this other business stuff can be rescheduled, but we're going to try to put our family stuff as much first as possible, and then we will decide and have communication if, say, something big comes up in business about whether or not we want to shift those rocks, those scheduled things that we had already agreed upon, down. And then from there, we take and we fill the rest of our time, the rest of our calendar with the sand, which was business, which is all these other things that we need to do but are not necessarily a priority. because to me, there's no sense in running a business if at the end of the day, you're not going to have your family there to help you, to be there for you. I don't ever want to be laying on my deathbed and go, man, I'm so glad I spent another hour cleaning up my Instagram feed. Instead of, man, I'm so glad I spent that hour to go to my son's recorder rehearsal or performance. And that's my goal. And that's my goal for you guys, to fill your vases with the rocks first, then put the sand in. And it sounds so common sense, but I'm going to tell you, when you are getting busy and you're overwhelmed and bogged down, sometimes just pulling out the piece of paper with where I wrote down my rocks and looked at the calendar, it refocuses me. Not only it shows me what my why is and what I'm doing this for, but it refocuses me to know what is really important, because it's easy to get caught up when that fiery feeling in your stomach starts going. It's easy to get caught up in that feeling and success or pleasing other people, creating business relationships, making money, whatever it is. And knowing that none of that really matters. My kids don't really care at the end of the day that I have 50 more Instagram followers from one post. They don't care about that. And for me, yes, long term, I need that for business. But the rocks come first, then the sand comes next. So that's essentially in a nutshell, a business bite for you guys of the calendar management to put family ahead of business. Put your rocks in your vase, then fill it with sand. If you ever need to shift anything around, you're the business owner, you get to do it. And that is what the best part of doing this as an entrepreneur is, that you're in control of your business and what you want to do with it. Thank you for joining me today on Business Bites. Please share with any friends that you think would absolutely love to have this bite-sized content to help grow their business while also having a life and being happy as well.
Thanks for joining Rachel on this episode of the Business Bites. For show notes, a list of recommended tools, or referenced episodes, you can find them at businessbitespodcast.com. Until next time.